the infrastructure bank, we are going to cut $35 billion because that infrastructure bank did not deliver a single project for Canadians. We're also going to get rid of ArriveCan. We're going to get rid of the so-called Green Fund, which has now become a total scandal, according to all public servants involved. They say it's a scandal on par with the sponsorship scandal. We're also going to cut consultant fees, who are costing Canadian families $1,400 per family. This Prime Minister doubled spending on external consultants over the past 8 years. These are major sums of money that are not delivering any results for Canadians, and this is work that could be done by the government internally. This is work that can be done by public servants. The Prime Minister has also increased the public service, by the way, by 50%. We have common sense policies. We want $1 of spending to match $1 of saving. Dollar for dollar. Each time this Prime Minister increases spending by $1, he will have to make $1 of savings to offset that $1 of spending, rather than adding to our national debt, rather than adding to inflation and taxes. We would cap spending. That would help workers and businesses in our economy to, in fact, grow. When the state does not spend excessively, then we can grow. We need to cut costs that are on the backs of Canadians. Now, let's talk about workers. Currently, there's a war on work, a war on workers. Workers are punished by incredibly high inflation rates, which cut into their paychecks, which eat away at their paychecks, and a common sense Conservative government will cut taxes and will ensure that work is done here in Canada. We will ensure that our workers and our small businesses are supported. We want to be a country that values work, that pays for work. We will also protect paychecks. We will protect Canadians' paychecks, and we will, in fact, boost their paychecks. How will we do so? We will scrap unconstitutional legislation that blocks natural resources projects. We will allow Quebecers to build dams, mines, and other projects that lead to wealth for our country. Rather than sending our money to China or to other countries, to dictatorships, we're going to bring that money back to Canada for us to have more powerful paychecks. And we will build houses. After 8 years of this Prime Minister, the cost of housing has doubled. Rent has doubled. The necessary down payment for the average home has doubled. And the average down payment has doubled, and the average home price has doubled. In Montreal, though, it has tripled. After 8 years of this Prime Minister, the cost of a 2-bedroom apartment rose by not much when I was housing minister 8 years ago, but now rent is up to $2,200 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Construction is being blocked. Legislation is blocking construction. So much housing has been blocked for the past 6 years. But now in Canada, there are thousands of projects that are being blocked by bureaucracy. It's even worse in Vancouver. The former NDP mayor there is incredibly incompetent and added $1.3 million of additional costs per housing unit built. And these increases are the result of bureaucracy and taxes imposed by government. In Quebec, I met with Mr. Trudeau. I met with my Quebec lieutenant, who told me that monthly rent in each of his apartments, $500 of rent is to compensate for government costs, that is, taxes and bureaucracy. So $500 of each rent payment goes to taxes and bureaucracy. So $500 on $1,000 of rent. So that's half of the rent payment for red tape, for government red tape. That's too much. And that's why a common sense Conservative government will encourage and incentivize municipalities to speed up home building rather than blocking it. Currently, the federal government is giving $5 billion to municipalities through HST. through sales tax. But there's a lot of conditions attached to that money. Federal conditions. But none of those conditions are speeding up home building. That's why we will work with the government of Quebec to reach a new infrastructure deal. We would encourage building. We would encourage construction. We will link the money that municipalities receive to the number of units they build, the number of apartment units and homes that they build the previous year. Funding will be linked to results. Municipalities like Victoriaville, Saguenay, and Trois-Rivières would receive huge bonuses under a Conservative government because last year they had massive growth. Those municipalities increased home building by 30%. We want to reward that. Real estate agencies, they're paid for the number of houses they sell. Construction companies are paid for the number of homes that they build. We want to pay local bureaucracies for the number of homes that they allow. That will lead to increased building. We also want to, in fact, insist that there be housing built near public transit stations. There should be a minimum number of apartments around each public transit station. There should be huge apartment blocks surrounding public transit. Everywhere in Canada, like in Vancouver, in Montreal, there are beautiful public transit stations with basically no housing around them. That's ridiculous. The federal government offers funding. We should insist that there be apartments near public transit stations that we give funding for so that seniors and young people can live near these public transit stations. And these are the ways that we will increase home building. We will insist that the CMHC give funding for apartments in 2 months, not 2 years. And execs should be fired if they don't deliver results quickly. Lastly, these homes should be built in safe communities. Crime has risen almost 40% after 8 years of this prime minister. 8 years. In 8 years, this prime minister has driven up crime. He has been allowing the same repeat offenders to reoffend and reoffend to commit the same crimes, sometimes even the same day that they're arrested. They are released on bail. A Conservative government would fix this. We are going to target true criminals, especially criminals who use weapons. We are also going to shore up our borders. We're going to strengthen our borders, and we're also going to protect sports shooters and hunters. We'll protect them. Also, for those dealing with drug addiction, we will offer them support rather than decriminalizing crack and cocaine and other drugs, as the Prime Minister has already done with the NDP in British Columbia. What I'm describing here, Madam Speaker, is common sense. Common sense for the average Canadian. The Liberals and the Conservatives worked together on common sense and with common sense for decades. That's how Canada succeeded. This is a consensus that the Conservative government will rebuild to give Canada back the Canada that we love and the Canada that we deserve. That's our goal. Our goal is to cut taxes,